I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Did you know Discover wants everyone to feel special? That's why with your Discover card, you have access to 24/7 customer service, as well as $0 fraud liability, which means you're never held responsible for unauthorized purchases. Learn more at discover.com/credit card. Limitations apply.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers could have moved into the top spot in the Western Conference with a win over Minnesota last night. They didn't come close. The Clippers lost by 21 in Crypto.com. Minnesota shot 54% and had 33 assists. The Lakers are back in action tonight against Detroit. 7:30 tip-off at Crypto. Women's college basketball fans around the country now know that Juju Watkins is a legitimate star. In a nationally televised game on ESPN last night, the Compton freshman dropped 32 points against Arizona. USC wins by 17. 4 straight for the Trojans. Watkins has had 30 or more points in 9 games. She's 1 game shy of the single-season record set by USC legend Cheryl Miller in 1984-85. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte with the KBLA Talk 1580 editorial. In a public opinion survey commissioned by KBLA Talk 1580 and conducted by Viteris, the black voters surveyed were highly enthusiastic about the March 2024 primary. The race for Los Angeles District Attorney is being hotly contested. Incumbent DA George Gascon's efforts to implement progressive criminal justice reforms have generated pushback from within his own office, the broader law enforcement community, and some in the general public. He was the subject of at least 2 failed attempts to qualify recalls. The concerns about crime are reflected in the polling results of black voters. Nearly 1 in 4 have been victims of violent crime or have someone close to them who has been a victim. 1 in 5 black voters have personally been victims of property crime in the last 2 years. A majority of respondents feel less safe than they did a year or 2 ago, but they reject the notion that criminal justice reform has gone too far. This year, black voters will be looking for candidates who speak to the complexity of the issues as opposed to a one-size-fits-all approach. Nearly half of black voters have an unfavorable view of DA Gascon, but his challengers are largely unknown. Nearly half of the black voters are also undecided, which means there's a clear opportunity for candidates to connect with black voters. Our poll makes 3 things abundantly clear. Black voters matter. Black voters are closely following this race, and the candidates for DA have a lot of work to do. KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to the mobilization and use of the franchise to empower our audience to identify and pursue their interests in advancing equity, inclusive representation, and multiracial solidarity. For KBLA Talk 1580, I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte. We welcome your feedback.
1, 2, 3, go! Try to keep it coming. Things ain't always smooth. Oh, wait. But I'll be alright as long as I can find the groove. Yes, I will. Yeah. Somehow I know that I can make it. You seem like my style. Now, don't you worry, I'm gonna be around a while. Yes, I will. I'm just happy to see you talk to me back in style again.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavissmileyshow.com. That's thetavissmileyshow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, renowned black chef Carla Hall is back with a new series called Chasing Flavor, which debuted this month on Max. From ice cream to shrimp and grits, she traces the history of dishes that we think are quintessentially American, but actually have interconnected international origins. Chef Carla Hall today in hour 2. In our third hour,
just a little too long. Now it's time for me to be strong. Hello, morning. I sure missed you last night. Goodbye, morning. You just won't do me right. Just a little too long. Now it's time for me to move on. They say I'm hopeless. As a penny with a hole in it.
in hour 3, Theodore Witcher joins us live in studio to talk about black love in film and the enduring legacy of his feature debut, Love Jones, believe it or not, over 25 years ago now. That was his first film. What a way to come out the blocks. Theodore Witcher joins us today in hour 3 as we approach Love Day. Who better to talk to than the guy who actually did Love Jones a quarter century ago? Look forward to Theodore Witcher joining us live in studio to talk about that film today in our final hour. But in this first hour today, let's talk politics with Connie Rice, our regular contributor, towering public intellectual, always delighted to be in dialogue with the one and only Connie Rice. Connie, how are you today?
Hey, Tavis. Good to be with you.
It's good to hear your voice, and I'm glad to have you on. You sound
I'm
way too excited.
I'm watching the meltdown and starting the countdown.
I was going to say, you sound way too enthusiastic for the moment that we are in right now. That's the Connie. Now, that's the Connie I know. I'm watching the meltdown and waiting for the countdown. Okay, now that's the Connie I know. Let me jump right in. We got a couple minutes here to set the table, and then when we come forward, we got a whole hour to unpack it. So we were on this program yesterday. It didn't happen while I was on the air live, but we were waiting yesterday for Mr. Trump's lawyers to make their way to the U.S. Supreme Court, metaphorically speaking, and ask the court to intervene on his immunity claim. So he has, in fact, responded to the edict by the federal appellate court that he had until Monday to file his claim. And so he has asked the justices of the U.S. Supreme Court to halt a ruling that he must face trial on charges that he plotted to overturn the 2020 election. No surprise here, but just lay quickly for me the foundation of what happened yesterday, how you see it, and we'll when we come forward, we'll jump into it in more detail.
Okay, so you got to keep track of his trials because he's got so many of them.
Yeah.
But this is the D.C. insurrection election interference case, Tavis. And Trump, what he did is he appealed from the D.C. circuit that said, guess what, you don't have total immunity to commit crimes as you want. So he's taken up his total immunity to commit crimes up to the Supreme Court. And the question is whether they will even look at it, they really shouldn't, or whether they're going to take it up and issue a stay. And if they do that, that means we probably won't have a conviction in a case before the election.
So there's the foundation. When we come forward, we'll jump right into that, get Connie's take on what it all means. Connie, you heard her say a moment ago, believes they shouldn't even take the case up. There are all kinds of legal scholars who have different opinions on this. Many agree with Connie that they shouldn't take it up because the federal appellate ruling they think was just that airtight. There's no reason to take it up. On the other hand, they have heard oral arguments already, as you know, in the case of whether or not he ought to be kicked off ballots in Colorado, Maine, and other places. So the question does remain, will they take this up? If they do, what does that mean? If they don't, what does that mean? We'll start there, but a great deal more to talk about for the hour with our regular contributor, Connie Rice, on Tavis Smiley.
From the Merck Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
There's only a few days left for open enrollment, starting at $0 a month. LA Care Covered offers the benefits you need to achieve your health goals. $0 preventive services, 24/7 virtual care and nurse advice lines, walk-in minute clinics, free fitness and nutrition classes, and more. Become a member of LA's most affordable health plan. Get a free instant quote at lacarecovered.org. Have open enrollment questions? Connect with us today at 855-222-4239. Find your affordable path to wellness with LA Care Covered today.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do Black history every single day. In fact, as the only Black talk radio station west of the Mississippi, we are Black history. Our annual Black History Month luncheon is fast approaching, and we want to be sure to give you ample time to get your company, organization, church, or group to join us at this year's celebration on the last day of the month, Thursday, February 29th at noon. Last year, we honored iconic local Black media personalities, including Pat Harvey, Jim Hill, Mark Brown, Beverly White, Sandy Banks, and Pat Prescott, and raised $20,000 in scholarships. This year, we're honoring Black Hollywood creatives who have used their artistic genius as climate justice champions. At this year's luncheon, we will be showcasing and sharing their inspiring work on our big screen. Plus, a scrumptious meal, live music, great company, and lots of fun with your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts. So contact us today at info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. That's info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. We hope to see you Thursday, February 29th as we close out Black History Month. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your Black.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Connie Rice as we jump into this conversation in this hour to commence this program today. And where else do you start but with the news of the day that Donald Trump and his lawyers did, in fact, metaphorically speaking, make their way to the U.S. Supreme Court yesterday to file, as we expected, papers asking for a stay. They want this federal appellate court decision of last week that they do not have immunity from prosecution, blanket immunity. They want the Supreme Court to overturn that. I suspect they won't. We'll get Connie's take on that in just a second here. But let me just back up to something that's more fundamental and basic, Connie, before we get to your thought about why they shouldn't take the case up. This whole notion, this argument of blanket immunity it's laughable on a certain level on its face. It is such a farce. Why would anybody in this country ever be given blanket immunity for anything illegal that they may have done during a particular time period of their life, no matter who they are? The fundamental notion of blanket immunity is it's not just offensive. It'd be laughable if it weren't so serious.
and weren't so serious because it will determine whether this country reelects a man who wants to terminate the Constitution and who's an adjudicated rapist, liar, and so forth and so on. It's incredible to me that he has the chutzpah, I guess is the word, but he always has. He always has. He always does the most outrageous thing, and because of who he is, all of the powers that be in the institutions bend to give him latitude and consideration that no one else in the country would get. And so, in this particular case, this is the case where you've got Jack Smith and Judge Chutkan in the D.C. Federal court, where Trump has been charged with conspiring to interfere with the federal certification of Joe Biden's election win. And when he flung that MAGA mob at the Capitol and then failed to stop it, all of the stuff he did way before that point, trying to pressure Barr and his vice president and getting fake electors in Georgia and across the country. I mean, he just did everything he could. He tried to sick the military on him. He did a dozen things to try to make sure that his loss didn't get vindicated and that Joe Biden didn't become president. So that's what this case is about. And right now, Judge Chutkan set a March 4th trial date. He's doing everything he can to delay because his strategy, if he delays all of these trials beyond the federal trials, beyond the election in November, the presidential election in November, and he wins, which he might do, then he can just pull the plug on all these cases, and he will have gotten away with everything.
Mm-hmm. A moment ago, you made the comment that the Supreme Court should not take this case up. What's your argument for why they shouldn't take it up?
Because his lawyer to the D.C. Circuit Court, when the Court of Appeals was considering his claim that he has immunity for life, because once you're president, you can do anything you want, and while you're president, you can do anything you want. And his lawyer was asked, well, if the president can do anything, can the president send a drone to kill his political opponents? And his lawyer said yes. So that's why this thing is so ridiculous. He actually made that argument before a very serious federal court. That's the kind of argument that the D.C. Circuit said just slashed historically, statutorily, constitutionally, just slash. Absolutely not. This is beyond preposterous. And now he's taking that up to say to the Supreme Court, well, why don't you tell me I can have this kind of immunity? So, Tavis, I think if we go 30,000 feet up and not get stuck in the weeds on these specific cases, all of the basic 91 federal counts, this is a campaign to destroy the rule of law and the constitutional framework that contains the rights that African Americans are still striving to make a reality. And so this is a war on the rule of law. Everything he does, all of that clown show that he does outside the courtrooms, where he attacks the judges, attacks the law clerks, where he tells people that it's all a conspiracy and that it's corrupt and the judges are biased against him and it's a political witch hunt. All of that stuff is to torpedo the rule of law. Just like when he was president, he went after the supremacy clause. He went after the impeachment clause. He wanted to torpedo any institution or any constraint like the Constitution or the Bill of Rights, freedom of the press. He attacks every institution that gets in his way. And so we're being blooded. You know how my grandfather used to have hunting dogs, and he had to blood them to teach them to kill, right? And we've been blooded for fascism. We're being blooded to get rid of the rule of law. And we're being blooded to put a man who says he wants to be a dictator and terminate the Constitution. We're being blooded into returning him to power.
It is often the case when I talk to Connie Rice that she says something that I wish I had thought of first. It's such a great metaphor that we are being blooded, just like you blood dogs to get ready for the hunt. We are being blooded for fascism. We're being blooded for authoritarianism. Dang it, I wish I had thought about that. It's a great line, Connie. I love it, and it makes perfect sense. You explained it beautifully. You said two things I'm still mad. I didn't think about that first. But there are two things you said I want to go back to right quick. The first is you used the word scared. in terms of the way that the judiciary has moved with regard to Donald Trump. They've given him gag orders. He's broken those gag orders. They've really done nothing to him. In New York, he talked so disrespectfully to that judge. He talked over him. He talked down to him. He humiliated the judge. He embarrassed the judge. And all the judge said in New York was, counselor, please get control of your client. That's all that the judge said. So my question is whether or not our system, as we see Trump, to your point, facing 91 charges in all these court cases, he's disrespecting everybody in the entire process. So my question is our judicial system scared of him, or is it more about being careful that they don't seem to be unfair to him, or perhaps setting themselves up for some sort of mistrial motion? My question is, are they scared, or is there something else I'm missing about why they're being so deferential to Donald Trump?
It's all of the above, Tavis. They're both afraid of him, but they also know that, when you have a juvenile delinquent or a hockey hooligan, they're trying to goad you into being violent against them. And if you do that, they win an even bigger prize, which is to show, see, they're against me. So these judges are like, let him throw his tantrums. We're going to come out with rulings. I mean, I can't wait for Judge Erdogan to tell him, how much money he's going to have to pay for his 40 years of tax evasion and fraud in the state of New York. He's got to pay $83 million because he got, for the second time, is an adjudicated rapist in civil court. On and on and on. So the conclusions of these judicial processes so far have gone against him. But make no mistake about it, just the most glaring example of them bending over backwards to accommodate this wannabe dictator. In the stolen classified documents case where he stole nuclear secrets and hoarded them and kept them by his toilet. Okay, that case in Florida where the judge is actually kind of in his pocket. I don't know anybody charged with espionage who has a private jet who is allowed to keep the jet, keep the pilot, and not surrender his passport when you were charged with espionage. Anybody else facing those Espionage Act cases, charges, wouldn't even gotten bail. They didn't even confiscate his passport. That was the most glaring example to me. So it's both. The courts are bending over backwards to him in a way that they would not bend to somebody who wasn't a former president, who's this corrupt. I don't even think they treat normal former presidents this way with this much deference. Can
that be justified? I mean, obviously they're doing it, but can it be justified in any reasonable way?
Well, if you're keeping your eye on the prize of keeping the court process going and not giving him grounds for saying that there's bias, I could see making those calls. I can't see what Judge Cannon did in Florida with the classified documents case, though. That was nuts. You take his passport. He could be on his way to Moscow with his best buddy Putin on his jet. You know what I mean? Those are serious charges. You know, there are people doing 9 years in prison, federal prison, which means you do the whole 9 years. This isn't state court, for stealing 2 classified documents. He had a ballroom full of them. So it's both.
Yep. Back to your brilliant metaphor and brilliant analysis that we are being blooded for authoritarianism and blooded for fascism and just blooded for the demise of this democracy by one Donald Trump. And many people are going for it, hook, line, and sinker. I digress on that point for now. But here's a question I've not asked of others, but I'm glad that it comes to my mind now so I can ask it of you. You talked earlier about the GOP and they're being engaged in, as you called it, a war on the rule of law. I cannot disagree. No reasonable person could disagree with what you've said. We are witnessing the GOP engaged, led by Donald Trump, in a war on the rule of law. By the way, you probably saw the news that he is now supporting his daughter-in-law to be the co-chair of the RNC. You saw that story, right? He's now supporting his daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, to be the co-chair of the Republican National Committee. I digress on that for now as well. So first he brought his daughter and his son-in-law, Ivanka and Jared, into the White House. And now in this iteration of his political career, he wants his daughter-in-law to be the co-chair of the Republican National Committee. Again, we're going to pause on that for a second. But the point I was driving toward is that for as long as I've been living, as long as I've been doing what I'm doing, it is the GOP that has always promoted itself, advanced itself. The narrative has always been that they are the party of the rule of law. They've now done a complete 80 on that stance. How do you read that in 2024, that they are no longer the rule of law? They are the party now engaged in a war on the rule of law.
And you put your finger right on it, Tavis. This is not the GOP. This is the Trump MAGA party. The GOP died with Bob Dole and John McCain. Okay, It's gone. Okay, normal Republicans who can tell reality from fiction. Normal Republicans, who know the truth from a massive lie. Those folks don't have a party. The Liz Cheneys, my cousin Condoleezza. They don't have a party anymore. Okay, all right. What you have is a hostile takeover by fanatics, the MAGA nuts. And we're, the country is in, I call it, been diagnosed with fourth stage MAGAism. We don't have a Republican Party. So, and what you talked about him putting his daughter-in-law in there, he loves the Saudi family dynasty for a reason. That's what he's creating. He doesn't, and the democracy is not for him because it constrains him. So here's, that to me is clear. GOP used to be Law and Order because that was the dog whistle for suppressing civil rights and going against progress for African Americans and for other people of color. That was the dog whistle, the Willie Horton dog, and that wasn't a dog whistle, that was a screaming foghorn. But the party that had the Southern strategy, the GOP used to be the party of Lincoln. And in 100 years it went to the party of the Southern strategy with Lee Atwater and Willie Horton. And so now it's devolved even further and collapsed into a fascist party of political violence. And if our candidates don't win, we will destroy the democracy. So that we need to stop talking about the GOP. It's gone. It's the Make America White Again party, and they have a movement that is gaining steam.
Yeah, I love your phrase again that we are now in fourth stage MAGAism. Is that what you said? Fourth stage MAGAism. Connie can turn a phrase. Can't nobody do it like her. I guess the question is whether or not there's a cure. Is there an antidote to that?
There may be a vaccine, and the vaccine is us realizing what screen to be on, what frame to be in. We have one shot in November. Putting the brakes on this. I can't say it's going to stop. You can stop Trump, but you can't stop Trumpism, the MAGAism. And so it's now caught too much of the white population's imagination. And about 15% are true believers, about 40% are just cynical. I make more money with Donald Trump, although that's not true because under Biden, there's not only a soft landing with the runaway inflation, but there's also the Dow has gone over 5,000 twice for the first time in history. So these folks are making more money. The greed crowd, the gospel of greed crowd, they're making more money than ever. But they don't like the regulations. They don't like the progressive movement toward a multiracial democracy. All of this is animated. All of this backlash and white lash and retraction and voter suppression. Everything that we see, banning books that talk about African American history, talking about slavery as a jobs training program, all that craziness, comes from a panic over the country becoming, for the first time, majority of color. That the white majority is losing its primacy, although in the top jobs, there's still 96% white and male. We've made this tiny bit of progress, and we had a black president, and the country proceeded to have a psychotic break. So we've been here before. We've been here before, and African Americans have always been the catalyst, the key turning point. We are the ones who snatch the democracy from the jaws of totalitarianism and authoritarianism, because we know what American totalitarianism is. It's slavery.
Nope. I couldn't agree more. We know exactly what it is. We know it when we see it. When we come forward, I've got some questions for Connie about Joe Biden in particular that you'll want to hear. And I'm going to ask Connie a question that I've not asked at all. Believe it or not, because I've been so distraught about what happened in Fulton County in Atlanta, Georgia, I have not asked a single question in weeks about Fonnie Willis. But now that case is coming to a head about this romantic relationship with the special prosecutor she hired. There's a major event in that case this week. So I want to ask Connie her thoughts about that and a great deal more when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Unapologetically progressive. Unapologetically black. You're tapped into Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is expected to make a full recovery after he was hospitalized Sunday for an emergent bladder issue. Major General Pat Ryder told reporters Austin transferred his powers to Deputy Secretary of Defense Kathleen Hicks. The African-American Defense Secretary will not travel to Brussels for a meeting on Ukraine aid this week. A judge has dismissed the lawsuits against Harvard University over the alleged sale of body parts from the school morgue. Relatives of people whose bodies were donated to Harvard had sued the college for negligence after the morgue manager was accused of stealing and selling their body parts. A Superior Court judge had ruled that Harvard did not act in bad faith as alleged by the plaintiffs. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Did you know Discover wants everyone to feel special? That's why with your Discover card, you have access to 24/7 customer service, as well as $0 fraud liability, which means you're never held responsible for unauthorized purchases. Learn more at discover.com/credit card. Limitations apply.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers could have moved into the top spot in the Western Conference with a win over Minnesota last night. They didn't come close. The Clippers lost by 21 in Crypto.com. Minnesota shot 54% and had 33 assists. The Lakers are back in action tonight against Detroit. 7:30 tip-off at Crypto. Women's college basketball fans around the country now know that Juju Watkins is a legitimate star. In a nationally televised game on ESPN last night, the Compton freshman dropped 32 points against Arizona. USC wins by 17. 4 straight for the Trojans. Watkins has had 30 or more points in 9 games. She's 1 game shy of the single-season record set by USC legend Cheryl Miller in 1984-85. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like your style, though.
Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. By any other name, we demand environmental justice in 2024 and beyond. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down.
We all agree that America has a very serious problem.
Okay, KBLA delegation, we need your help as we launch our 2024 Climate Justice Campaign. We would deeply appreciate you going to our KBLA 1580 website and filling out a short climate justice survey, which will help us better serve our beloved community as we build out this campaign. It'll take you just a few short minutes to complete the online survey, and the information you provide us will be invaluable as we do our part to hold folk accountable and amplify the voices of our people in this climate conversation. When you take the survey, you'll be automatically entered to win seats at our annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 29th. So, hit our website at KBLA 1580. Help us out by taking the short climate justice campaign survey, and you could be our guest at our annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 29th. Thank you in advance for your consideration and cooperation. At KBLA Talk 1580, we care about the community, we care about the climate. We care about the climate.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be a sign that your digestive system isn't working at its best? Taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil fiber powders help promote your daily digestive health using a plant-based fiber called psyllium. The gelling action of this special fiber traps and removes waste so you can feel lighter and more energetic. Metamucil, promoting digestive health for a better you. Learn more at metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
You can do it all by yourself, baby girl. What's your name? Let me talk to you. Let me buy you a drink.
Spilled your drink? Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up spills quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less than the leading ordinary brand. So you can get back to your night. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
This is Tavis Smiley in conversation with our regular contributor, the towering public intellectual who turns a phrase like nobody else, Connie Rice. In case you've just tuned in, you missed a couple good ones already. She does it every time she comes on, and I'm scribbling as fast as I can. So first of all, she has diagnosed America as being in 4th stage MAGAism. That's where we are. We are in 4th stage MAGAism. She says there may be a vaccine. We shall see. But the phrase of the day is that we are being blooded. That's Connie Rice, a Connie original. We are being blooded. It's like you blood hounds before they go on a hunting expedition. You blood them. We are being blooded by Trump. We are being blooded by MAGAism. We're being blooded for authoritarianism, blooded for fascism. That is the frame and the phrase of the day, courtesy of one Connie Rice. Connie, let me come back to Donald Trump and back to Joe Biden in a second. Let me just pivot because there's a big piece today in, what is it? I've read so many things today. Politico. If you go to Politico, you'll see a pretty good article today about the status of these 4 major cases that Donald Trump is facing. And they break down in this Politico article today in these 4 cases that they're all having a crescendo moment this week. They're all coming to a head at some level in some way, shape, or form this week. That is the case for Fani Willis and her case in Fulton County, Atlanta, Georgia. It's coming to a head this week in terms of this romantic relationship. This thing's been so messy for me, Connie, that I've been so distressed about it that I haven't even want to talk about it. But let me just go here now because it is coming to a head this week. The judge has ordered that there's going to be a hearing about this relationship and whether or not it's going to have an impact ultimately on the case that she has brilliantly put together and brilliantly brought that has made great headway with a lot of convictions, with a lot of plea bargains already. She's already done some pretty good work. So there are 2 ways, at least 2 ways to read the Fani Willis mess that you all know about down in Fulton County, Georgia. She hired a special prosecutor. They paid him a significant amount of money, and then we find out that they have had a romantic relationship. He's going through a divorce, and his wife, who is obviously quite bitter, has been very involved in making sure this story got out in her own way. That's, again, it's messy. I'll leave that part alone. The question I'm pushing to for Connie is she always talks about getting in the right frame. And so I want to ask Connie, what is the right frame for us to be in right now vis-a-vis the mess with Fani Willis? Is it that she made a huge mistake by making herself the focus and not Donald Trump? You have to know if you're going after Donald Trump, they're going to dig in they're going to dig all up in your business. They're going to find this. So did she make a huge mistake for which she ought to be forgiven, bad judgment? Or is it the case that, as she's argued, they are coming after her, targeting black women as they do? Or is it both or something else? You tell me, Connie Rice.
Probably all of the above, Tavis.
Yeah.
Number one, here's the key thing. It's clearly a mistake in judgment and a mistake in the optics. You just don't, you can't do that, with any case, never mind this case. But that's not to look. If romance weren't allowed in litigation teams, the whole system would shut down. Okay, so I've been litigating for 40 years, and I've been on multiple teams. I'm telling you, if romance between the lawyers and the experts and so forth and so on is outlawed, then we're not going to have a judicial system. So let's just put that to the side. Okay. Too much information.
Yeah.
The key thing to keep your eye on, here's the question the judge has to determine. Is this mistake, did it in any way affect, jeopardize, impact the rights of the defendants, the rights of the people? Does it in any way affect whether this case would have been brought, or does it in any way affect the validity of the allegations that the defendants face? Bonnie Willis is a maestro with RICO cases. Okay, she knows how to use that statute, and she has structured this case in a way, and it's going as if she gets folks to fold, and they turn on the top folks. Right, you start at the bottom and you work your way up, and it's clear that this fits in the RICO. So this is that is a separate matter. If what she didn't impact their rights, didn't impact the trial, didn't impact the court, didn't impact the rights of the people in this prosecution, then the judge should say bad judgment, but it doesn't warrant disqualification of her or the team, and it certainly doesn't warrant dismissal of the case. That's the frame you need to be in. Now, the collateral stuff, sort of what damage does this do? Perception matters, especially in a high-stakes, high-politics case like this. And so it may be that the other ground is if there's some kind of monetary benefit that she could actually be accused of either sort of a lapse in integrity or maybe even a corruption allegation. I think those are the two things. Is there money corruption associated with this? Does she benefit from that salary and so forth? She's saying no. And then did it affect the trial? Did it affect the rights of the defendants? Should it in any way affect the merits of these charges? And my gut says no.
Stranger things have happened with judges who get a chance to make these decisions. Particularly down south, as we well know. So your gut tells you no. What do you think the chances are that the judge will see it the way you see it?
Maybe 50-50. But here's the thing. Even if Bonnie Willis is taken off the case, even if both lawyers are taken off the case, there's still a team that's going to go forward with this case. All right? I just don't. I'm not worried about them. They can take care of themselves.
Yeah. I'm
worried about whether the judge is going to determine that beyond disqualification, dismissal is required. That's what I don't see. That's what I've got my eye on. Bonnie Willis and the other prosecutor are going to defend for themselves. I'm worried about the integrity of the case, and I think that's what the judge is going to have his eye on.
Yeah. All right, let me pivot from that. As I say, it's messy. I didn't want to deal with it anyway, but you have to because it is news. I'm watching my clock here. Let me just do this. When we come forward, I want to get Connie's take on Joe Biden's situation. We discussed this yesterday. This, of course, was breaking news at the end of the week. Everybody talked about it over the weekend on all the Sunday shows. It was the topic du jour. We got into it a bit yesterday, but not with Connie Rice. And I want to get her take on the special prosecutor's report that finds that Joe Biden, we were talking earlier about Donald Trump and his documents down at Mar-a-Lago. The Biden case was a very different situation, very different scenario, and the special prosecutor ultimately decided, as you all know, he should not be prosecuted. But that ain't what made the headlines. What made the headlines was calling Joe Biden essentially old and feeble with a bad memory. He then comes out and has this press conference where he proves to us that he is old and feeble by confusing the president of Egypt and the president of Mexico. I said yesterday, and I want to get Connie's take on it, that I think it was a mistake on the part of the White House to so hastily call that press conference. They got themselves on the defensive so quickly. I don't know why they felt the need to do that, and then he, makes a huge mistake like that. That becomes an even bigger story. My sense is that it's happened early enough in this campaign where it may not be an issue between now and November unless he keeps doing this. But there's a question as to whether or not this was a political hit. The Biden administration thinks this was a political hit by a Republican special prosecutor who put that line in there to do the damage that he did. We'll talk about that and some more when we come forward with Connie Rice on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
It's game day at Jim's house, and the spread is impressive.
Mike's already done some damage with the hot wings, and now he's dropping back and going deep for another slice of pizza.
I sure hope he brought the Pepto.
Mike knows the Pepto-Bismol provides fast 5-symptom relief from unexpected stomach upsets. He's no rookie.
The way he's throwing back those nachos, he's the GOAT.
Be ready for game day with Pepto-Bismol.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Girl, I have a secret. When I get stressed out, I get sweaty. That's why I use Secret Clinical Antiperspirant. It's like my own secret weapon. For 72 hours, I get Secret's strongest protection against sweat caused by stress, heat, and activity, because you know how crazy life can get. Plus, it's made with advanced odor fighters that don't just cover up smelliness. They help prevent it from happening in the first place. Believe me, if I weren't wearing Secret, I'd be a hot, smelly mess. Thankfully, Secret works.
KBLA Talk 1580 is the exclusive media sponsor of this light of ours, activist photographers of the Civil Rights Movement. A dynamic new exhibition on view now at the Skirball Cultural Center in Los Angeles. This light of ours showcases more than 150 photos taken by movement insiders from diverse backgrounds that reveal the vital work undertaken by a broad coalition of organizers and everyday people whose collective action changed America. This light of ours is one of 3 temporary exhibitions currently on view at the Skirball, which together explore issues related to civil rights, immigration, and pluralism. Tickets and more information for all 3 exhibitions are available at skirball.org. That's skirball.org. SKIRBALL.org.
Made fresh daily in Leimert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
You're listening to Connie Rice on Tavis Smiley. I'm delighted to have her on. Watching my time here. Connie, let me give you a chance to sound off. I've been anxious to hear your take on the drama of the special prosecutor calling Joe Biden essentially old and feeble with a bad memory. He then calls a press conference rather hastily and proves to us that he is old and feeble by confusing the president of Egypt with the president of Mexico. Again, my view is that they probably shouldn't have jumped so quickly on that, but that's me. What say you, Connie Rice?
Yeah, I fired the staff person who did that. Number one, Biden may have confused the president of Egypt and the president of Jordan after October 7th attack, and he'd been up all night dealing with that international emergency. But he knows the difference between Nikki Haley and Nancy Pelosi. And he knows that we've already fought World War II, which Trump doesn't know. And Trump mistook. Let me get this straight. Here's a man who can't remember saying he has a good memory. That they have recorded in a deposition saying he can't remember saying he has a great memory. And then he thinks World War II is about to start. He mistook a woman he raped in a dressing room for his second wife. I think, Joe Biden can recognize his wife. So here's what I don't get. The media focuses like an obsessive laser on Joe Biden, who, by the way, has presided over the expansion of NATO, the saving of Ukraine, the soft landing of an economy that everybody in the Wall Street Journal said would never happen. We'd be in a recession, right? The Dow is over 5,000. This man is supposed to be feeble. This is what I don't get. You got a choice between Grandpa Joe and the Unabomber. And folks are saying the Unabomber is better. That's nonsense. So you've got two men, both on the verge of 80. Neither of them should be running for president. But that's our choice. If you have these two folks who couldn't be more different, when you have a choice between Mr. Rogers and Caligula, you don't choose Caligula. So the media's obsessed. It's like, wait a minute. You're talking about a man who is a criminal, a compulsive liar. I mean, talk about an epidemic of liarrhea. These folks can't tell the truth if you pay them. You have a psychotic liar who is a criminal, and he is only running to keep himself out of prison. That's your choice. Yeah. And they're both old.
There goes Connie again. Not diarrhea, but liarrhea. Only Connie Rice. Liarrhea. Let me ask you right quick here. I got about 30 seconds, and then we'll continue when we come forward. Why do you, and you put your finger on this, I made this very point on this program yesterday. Why do you think the media is so obsessed with covering Joe Biden's gaffes and not Donald Trump's gaffes? What is that about?
Because the media has been blooded to numbness with his outrageous behavior. He has a fire hose of outrageous acts, so that you can't even catch all of them, and they become numb, and then they turn to someone who's normal. They make a mistake, and they focus on that because they can digest that. Yeah, that's just my speculation.
When we come forward, here's the exit question, at least one of the exit questions for Connie Rice. I mentioned earlier a big article in Politico you might want to check out about how all these four major cases against Trump are coming to a head this week in uniquely different ways. A piece worth reading in Politico. There's also a piece in the Washington Post today, and the headline simply says, "Is Biden the best Democrat to beat Trump?" Is Biden the best Democrat to beat Trump? Big article today in the Washington Post. They have their take on it. I want to know what Connie's take on it is when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment. LA's 99 neighborhood councils form the grassroots level of the Los Angeles city government. The system was created to connect LA's diverse communities to City Hall. While neighborhood council board members are volunteers, they are also public officials elected to office by the members of their community. Neighborhood councils advocate on issues like homelessness, housing, land use, emergency preparedness, public safety, parks, transportation, and sustainability. They also provide local expertise on the delivery of city services to their various communities. Neighborhood councils are open to participation by anyone who is a part of the fabric of daily life in said community. This includes those who live, work, or own property or a business. If you are interested in stepping up to join your local neighborhood council, visit www.empowerla.org. That's empowerla.org. It's time to think globally, but act locally. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. 120,000 miles of night drives, daily commutes, and who knows how many.
Are we there yet?
Through countless fixes, elbow grease, and a new radiator, you kept your ride alive. With eBay Motors, you have over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
All right, Connie Rice, big piece in the Washington Post today with the headline, "Is Biden the best Democrat to beat Trump?" And you say?
He's the only Democrat that's beat Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they asking this question? He's going to be the nominee.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter. Do you really think Donald Trump's the best thing for anything? No.
Mm-hmm.
So, this, I don't know. They must not have enough to do, because that's not the question. We're about to lose our democracy, and they're wondering whether they're better Democrats. Well, you can. That's like a parlor game. It's a waste of time.
He's
the only Democrat. Go ahead.
No. I'm not to cut you off, but I'm curious to get your take on it. So I hear your point, and I say this all the time as a talk show host, obviously. If you want the right answer, you got to ask the right question. In many ways, one could argue that the American media is asking the wrong questions. If that is the wrong question, is Biden the best Democrat to beat Trump in this moment in our nation's history? What is the right question we ought to be asking?
Do we understand that we're about to lose our democracy and have to act?
Mm-hmm.
This isn't about an election. This is about this. You talk about the cases against Trump being at inflection points. This is more than an inflection point. This is a decision point. Are you going to allow the democracy to dissolve into a crazy movement of nuts who will have in the cabinet people like David Duke and Scalise? I mean, it's insane. It's insane. It's like a Mad Magazine picture. But we're actually considering going that way because of the disinformation and the fraudcasting and the ignorance. I mean, this is militant ignorance. I didn't think people could get this aggressively ignorant, but they really have shown just how crazy the processing of disinformation can get. So we're in a dangerous moment because of the technology, because of the big switch into a new system, world order, that we don't know what the rules are. And when you have a vacuum, it gets filled by nut stuff. So that we're in a dangerous moment. We've been in more dangerous moments before, but this is a really dangerous moment. This is do or die for the democracy. That's not a regular election. And so I don't think the stakes are being made clear enough. And I don't think the Democrats understand. They've got to stop bringing talking points to a knife fight. This is about power. It's not about policy. I saw a headline, a group's going to spend $40 million doing advertisements on child care policy. Well, you may as well have a bonfire for that money, because this ain't about policy. It's about power. And if you don't understand what screen and what frame you're on, you're going to be pushing the wrong buttons. Okay? And Biden needs to get rid of the team he has, because if anybody who forgoes a chance to do an ad for the Super Bowl doesn't have staff that know what they're doing. And they got to manage. I have worked for elderly people who are still very, very smart,
sure,
but they don't have the energy they used to. Yeah. You have to manage their time, you know?
We don't have time to talk about it now. I'm out of time. But Joe Biden didn't run a commercial, but RFK did. Bobby Jr. did, and everybody's talking about it.
Speaking of nuts.
Yeah. On that note, Connie, I love you. I appreciate you. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for your insights.
Hey, take care, Tavis. Thanks so much.
Take care. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is expected to make a full recovery after he was hospitalized Sunday for an emergent bladder issue. Major General Pat Ryder told reporters Austin transferred his